Installing a service receptacle behind a compressor with only 5 inches of clearance and 8 inches below the top of the compressor constitutes a violation of the National Electrical Code, specifically concerning accessibility requirements for electrical equipment and junction boxes. Article 404.8 of the National Electrical Code mandates that electrical equipment be installed in a location where it is readily accessible for servicing and maintenance. This accessibility ensures that qualified personnel can safely and effectively perform necessary inspections, repairs, and replacements without undue difficulty or hazard. The intent of this code is to prevent situations where equipment is obstructed or hidden, making it difficult to reach and work on, potentially leading to unsafe conditions or deferred maintenance. The primary concern is that the equipment can be approached safely without the need to move obstacles, use ladders unless permanently installed, or remove architectural finishes. An example where there is adequate working space is 30 inches wide and 36 inches deep. Further, Article 314.28 of the National Electrical Code stipulates that all boxes used as junction boxes must be accessible. A junction box serves as an enclosure for electrical connections, providing a safe and organized space for joining wires. The requirement for accessibility ensures that these connections can be inspected, tested, and maintained as needed. If a junction box is concealed behind obstructions or permanently enclosed within a structure, it becomes difficult to verify the integrity of the connections, which could lead to undetected faults, overheating, or even fire hazards. The need for the box to be accessible is to prevent creating electrical hazards. Additionally, Article 364.10 prohibits the use of extension boxes for providing access to receptacles or other devices that are not inherently accessible. An extension box is a supplementary enclosure used to extend the reach of wiring to a device or receptacle. The National Electrical Code restricts the use of extension boxes in situations where the primary device is already inaccessible because relying on an extension box does not address the fundamental issue of obstructed access and could create additional safety concerns. Using an extension box would not resolve the existing physical inaccessibility. In the described scenario, the service receptacle is deemed inaccessible due to its placement behind the compressor, which impedes direct access without the use of an extension box. The limited clearance of 5 inches and the location 8 inches below the compressor's top further exacerbate the issue. The presence of the compressor acts as a physical barrier, making it difficult to reach the receptacle for routine tasks such as plugging in equipment, testing voltage, or performing repairs. The inaccessibility not only violates the aforementioned National Electrical Code articles but also poses potential safety risks. Working in confined spaces with limited visibility increases the likelihood of accidental contact with energized parts, leading to electrical shock or arc flash hazards. Moreover, the obstructed access could delay or hinder emergency repairs in the event of a malfunction or equipment failure. The use of an extension box in this context does not rectify the inaccessibility issue but merely attempts to circumvent it, which is expressly prohibited by the National Electrical Code. Even with an extension box, the primary receptacle remains obstructed, and the extension box itself may be subject to mechanical damage or strain due to its exposed location. To rectify this violation, the service receptacle should be relocated to a location where it is readily accessible without obstruction. The new location should provide sufficient clearance around the receptacle to allow for safe and convenient access for servicing and maintenance. Ideally, the receptacle should be positioned in an open area or along a wall where it is easily visible and reachable. The accessibility must be maintained without needing to remove permanent structures. It is essential to consult with a qualified electrician to determine the most appropriate location for the receptacle, taking into account factors such as equipment layout, working space requirements, and adherence to all applicable National Electrical Code regulations. A licensed electrician can assess the specific circumstances of the installation and recommend a solution that ensures both safety and compliance. The electrician should verify proper clearances and working space. Furthermore, the installation should be inspected and approved by a local electrical inspector to ensure that it meets all applicable code requirements. Electrical inspectors play a crucial role in verifying the safety and compliance of electrical installations, protecting the public from potential hazards. The inspector's approval provides assurance that the installation has been performed correctly and that it meets the standards set forth by the National Electrical Code and local regulations. It also validates the compliance with NEC regulations. In summary, placing a service receptacle behind a compressor with limited clearance and relying on an extension box for access violates the National Electrical Code requirements for accessibility of electrical equipment and junction boxes. To ensure safety and compliance, the receptacle should be relocated to an accessible location, installed by a qualified electrician, and inspected by a local electrical inspector. Failure to comply with these requirements could result in electrical hazards, code violations, and potential liability in the event of an accident or injury. By adhering to the National Electrical Code and following proper installation practices, electrical professionals can create a safe and reliable electrical system that protects both people and property. Ignoring these rules will expose people to electric shock or electrocution. The National Electrical Code specifies minimum clearances around electrical equipment to ensure safe operation and maintenance. Insufficient clearance can lead to several problems. Firstly, it hinders the ability of electricians to safely access and work on the equipment, potentially increasing the risk of electrical shock or arc flash. Secondly, it can impede the proper ventilation of the equipment, leading to overheating and premature failure. Thirdly, it may prevent the equipment from being operated or maintained in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. The specific clearance requirements vary depending on the voltage and type of equipment. For example, for equipment operating at 600 volts or less, the National Electrical Code typically requires a minimum of 3 feet of clear working space in front of the equipment, with a minimum width of 30 inches or the width of the equipment, whichever is greater. The depth of the working space depends on the voltage and the presence of exposed live parts. Higher voltages require greater clearances. In the case of the service receptacle behind the compressor, the limited clearance of 5 inches is far below the minimum requirement specified by the National Electrical Code. This makes it difficult to access the receptacle for any purpose, whether it is plugging in equipment, testing voltage, or performing repairs. The obstructed access also increases the risk of accidental contact with live parts, which could result in serious injury or death. The use of an extension box does not solve the problem of insufficient clearance. While it may provide a temporary means of accessing the receptacle, it does not address the underlying issue of obstructed access. Furthermore, extension boxes are not intended to be used as a substitute for proper clearance. They are typically used to extend the reach of wiring to a device that is otherwise accessible. To correct the violation, the service receptacle should be relocated to a location where it meets the minimum clearance requirements specified by the National Electrical Code. This may involve moving the compressor or relocating the receptacle to a different wall or area. The new location should provide sufficient space around the receptacle to allow for safe and convenient access. In addition to the clearance requirements, the National Electrical Code also specifies requirements for the installation and support of electrical equipment. Electrical equipment must be installed in a manner that prevents it from being damaged or dislodged. It must also be supported in a manner that ensures its stability and prevents it from vibrating or moving excessively. The service receptacle behind the compressor may also violate the National Electrical Code requirements for installation and support. If the receptacle is not properly supported, it could be subject to vibration or movement, which could damage the wiring or cause the receptacle to become dislodged. This could create a hazardous condition. To ensure compliance with the National Electrical Code, the service receptacle should be inspected by a qualified electrician. The electrician can assess the installation and identify any violations. The electrician can also recommend corrective actions to bring the installation into compliance with the code. In conclusion, placing a service receptacle behind a compressor with limited clearance violates the National Electrical Code requirements for accessibility, clearance, and installation. To ensure safety and compliance, the receptacle should be relocated to a location where it meets all applicable code requirements. The installation should be inspected by a qualified electrician to verify its compliance with the code. It is not safe nor compliant.